Now, let's join ace broadcaster Mamode Akuga as he takes us inside the Niger Delta.
Hello out there and welcome once again to the program. It's Inside the Niger Delta, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region. I'm your regular host, Mamode Akuga. In this edition of the program, our focus is strictly on socio-economic and environmental issues in the Niger Delta. These issues, you will agree with me, are the center of the crisis of underdevelopment that continues to bedevil the region. Inside the Niger Delta, we'll be back after this timeout. Don't go away.
Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, determined to make a difference.
Welcome back. It's Inside the Niger Delta, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region. Worried about the backwardness of the Niger Delta region, despite huge revenues accruing to the coffers of states under the statutory 13% derivation funds, a group known as the Host Communities of Nigeria Producing Oil and Gas is currently making moves to channel the funds directly to the communities. This follows the general perception that the funds under the custody of state governors have not been managed to the benefit of the region. This special report, correspondent Kenna Milfuri takes a look at how the 13% derivation fund can be managed to benefit communities in the Niger Delta.
The 1999 Constitution, as amended, provides in Section 162, subsection 2, that 13% derivation be given to host communities. The upward review of revenue allocation formula based on the principle of derivation was in compliance with the recommendation of the 1995 Constitutional Conference that 13% of revenues accruing to the Federation account be set aside to assist oil-producing communities tackle infrastructural decay and environmental degradation. As data obtained from the Central Bank of Nigeria reveals, oil-producing states received about 7 trillion naira as payment under the 13% derivation principle between 1999 and 2016.
The 13% derivation has not translated in the lives of the community, oil-bearing community. The 13% derivation is just extra money for governors to squander for their personal aggrandizement.
Look at it. Recently, I received the debt servicing index for the nation. The Niger Delta states are only more, apart from Lagos, than only other part of the country. Is it not ironical that the more we get, the more we owe? Look at the flamboyance of the political elite of the Niger Delta. They are feeding fat on our resources, including the 13% derivation.
The disbursement of the 13% derivation funds directly to the state government has been a subject of controversy over the years, with many interest groups probing into the application of the funds. The host communities of Nigeria producing oil and gas is particularly concerned about the legality of paying such funds into the account of state governments. This practice is said to be in contravention of Section 162 of the 1999 Constitution, which provides that the 13% derivation funds be paid directly to the oil-producing communities. Redirecting the channel of disbursement would require a template to effectively manage the oil derivation fund, the feasibility of which several groups in the region are beginning to consider.
This should be given to communities so that the money one person owns, the community will own such money and also invest such money in education, in agriculture and healthcare. By so doing, there will be peace in the region.
Besides making the statutory 13% derivation fund available to Nigeria's oil-producing states, the federal government has established the Niger Delta Development Commission and the Ministry of Niger Delta to intervene in the region's crisis of underdevelopment. However, all such efforts are considered inadequate by those clamoring for the operation of fiscal federalism to enable the oil-producing states have control over their resources.
Well, there are some who seem to argue that we should be grateful because now we have 13% derivation. My answer to that is very simple. You cannot steal my car and offer me a ride in the boot and expect me to be grateful. That is what it amounts to. Fiscal federalism is what we need.
When they say that the the money that is coming to the Niger Delta is not properly utilized. I'm not saying it's not true. I am accepting that as a Niger Delta person. That is a problem we, the Niger Delta people, have to fix. Now, that is not a problem somebody else should continue to take 87% and be telling us to be fixing the issue of 13. The 13% is not enough for the development of the Niger Delta.
Life in the Niger Delta is rough and tough. Widespread poverty is on account of joblessness, and the region's ever-declining Human Development Index is further compounded by limited access to basic social services like healthcare and education. This is a scenario that breeds insecurity in a region otherwise endowed with vast natural resources outside crude oil and gas. While the argument for increased funding of development initiatives in the Niger Delta may not be out of place, the onus is on the federal government to reinvent its mechanism for transparency and accountability in the management of the people's commonwealth in Nigeria's Niger Delta.
Inside the Niger Delta.
The tragedy that has become Oloibiri, the rusty Ijaw community where crude oil was first drilled in Nigeria, remains a sore in the hearts of people with good conscience in the Niger Delta and everywhere else in the world. After being milked of billions of petrodollars by the Nigerian state and Shell Petroleum Development Company, Oloibiri is left abandoned and desolate, a scenario that upsets Mrs. Ethel Spieth, a Niger Delta Amazon, whose unfulfilled dream is to accord Oloibiri its pride of place as the cradle of Nigeria's hydrocarbon industry.
With outstanding contributions that shape the course of major world events, people and places become part of history. It is not in doubt, therefore, that Oloibiri, where crude oil was first struck and explored on a commercial scale in Nigeria, remains a historic community. Unlike its contemporaries in the League of Oil-Producing Nations, however, Oloibiri was discarded and forgotten as soon as its oil wells dried up. It is a case of injustice that Mrs. Ethel Spieth has spent the better part of her active life to address. In the late 1970s, under the administration of Melfred Okilo, the first civilian governor of Old River State, Mrs. Spieth was appointed chairperson of the River State Tourism Board. She immediately embarked on a search for tourist sites to be developed and commercialized for revenue generation. It was in the process that she stumbled on Oloibiri.
At that time, River State and Bayelsa State were one. And I was commissioned to go around the states and look for tourist attractions. So we decided to go around. We went to Akasa, went to Brass, the war cemeteries and things like that. And then we also went to Bayelsa State to see the first oil well. They said it was the first oil well. I didn't know. I've never seen one before. But when we got there, I noticed something that looked like a cross. That was what attracted me as a person. So as we were looking around, I saw it and I said, what is that looks like a cross? And they said, one of the members on the committee said, oh, that is not a cross, that's a Christmas tree. So I said, what is a Christmas tree? Because I know Christmas trees at home at Christmas time. That didn't look like one. And they said, no, that's an oil, it's called Christmas tree in the oil industry. That is the Oloibiri Oil Well #1. I was so surprised and happy. Everybody was excited because that oil changed a lot of things in Nigeria. So after that, me and my board now decided that that should be one of our attractions.
Young and vibrant at that time, Mrs. Spieth was able to quickly assemble a team to draw up a blueprint for the establishment of National Oil Center Oloibiri. Her dream was to have Oloibiri permanently engraved in the annals of crude oil and gas production.
And we decided that no, we should get some other members of the community involved and let's form a board to work on this. So we got from the NNPC, we got the public relations manager who is now a traditional ruler in Anambra State, Alex Nwokedi. We got Feyi from the ELF. We got representing the oil companies. We got Dr. Ekbu, the Director General of the Museum Commission, to be on the board. We got the Director General of the Tourism Tourism Board, Federal Tourism Board. He also was on that committee. And we formed this committee and started talking about what to do with it. That this is a very interesting point that Nigerians should know about. We should sort of build a museum and, be able to tell the Nigerians how oil came into Nigeria. Have an exhibition center where the story of oil can be told from its inception. So we agreed, let's go to an architect who would help us to shape this whole thing. Who is this architect of high repute? Dr. Alex Ekweme, the Vice President of Nigeria. We all carried ourselves and went to Lagos to see him. We explained it all to him. Immediately, he supported us. He bought the idea and said it's laudable and that he would want to be involved in it. He came to Oloibiri with his wife. And then he came to Oloibiri, the chiefs were all there, and all the expatriates, not managing directors, the general managers of all the oil companies in Rivers State at that time were present. And could you imagine, can you believe that amongst all these, there was an assistant general manager or general manager operations, who today is the Obi of Furniture, Nemeka. Yeah. He was there from beginning to end.
Having successfully sold her idea to the presidency in the Second Republic, President Shehu Shagari flew into Oloibiri to perform the foundation laying ceremony for the proposed National Oil Center.
The state government was very, very supportive because don't forget, Okilo came from there. Every group with their own little helicopter, they flew in from Lagos to Oloibiri. And the president came. And the Secretary General of the World Tourism Organization came. And every African ambassador whose mainstay of livelihood was tourism was present.
The project suffered a huge setback when the Shagari government was toppled by a military coup. This made at the turn of events, Mrs. Dieter Spiff left for London in pursuit of other interests. Almost a decade after, in the early 1990s, she was invited by the new government of Rufus Addo George to reactivate the Oloibiri project. Again, there was another coup that truncated the project.
We started working all over again, looking for other areas, how we could put together to actualize what we were looking for. The government changed again. Addo George was removed. Abacha came. Abacha didn't want to hear anything about Niger Delta. Abacha didn't want to hear anything about oil well number 1 or what. What would I do? I carried the oil well number 1 to United Nations. I have proof. I went on the platform of Rivers Today. That was a club in London. So I went on that platform and carried all my papers and everything, wrote to them. They gave me an audience to speak. I spoke at United Nations. I have proof.
Ever since, Mrs. Dieter Spiff has had sleepless nights over her long unfulfilled dream to have Oloibiri transformed from its squalid state into a flourishing tourist center. On 2 occasions, she was disappointed by circumstances beyond her control, but she feels even more pained by the indifference and betrayal she encountered in her quest to entrench Oloibiri on the world map. After her idea was stolen and resold to the federal government, the contract for the establishment of the Oloibiri Oil and Gas Museum was awarded in 2012. Sadly, nothing has been heard of the project since then.
35 billion naira, according to the press report that we have. This money was budgeted to Petroleum Development Trust Fund. And Petroleum Development Trust Fund and the Bureau for Public Enterprise worked hand in hand to award contracts to individuals, some of them from Dubai, some from other places. Nobody knows what has happened to that money, nor to the contract awarded. Or what was their intention? Why since then nothing had happened? Did they return the money to the federal government? Or are they still keeping the money and paying people who they said did some work for them or what? Nigerians would like to know. Niger Deltas would like to know what happened to that money. Please, let us leave a monument of how we started and where our wealth came from. Let us come together and develop the first oil well. Not only the federal government, all the oil companies and owners of oil blocks, please, this is your responsibility. You feed from that. Take care of the hen that lays the golden egg.
Mrs. Ethel Dietis-Spiff, the brain behind the Oloibiri Oil and Gas Museum, feels the numbing pain behind a long unfulfilled dream. Yet, it is a dream for which she continues to live. In spite of all the setbacks it has encountered over the years, she is optimistic that one day, perhaps not in her lifetime, Oloibiri will get its due attention and recognition as the cradle of the hydrocarbon industry in Nigeria.
Inside the Niger Delta. Overcome that blackout. Enjoy 24 hours affordable electricity without noise pollution or daily purchase of petrol or diesel. Invest in alternative power from Exalted Eagles Nigeria Limited. We stock high-grade, long-lasting solar panels, modern hybrid inverters, and rugged long-life batteries. We also have for sale solar-powered water heaters and water pumping machines. We also stock for sale large quantities of solar-powered street lights, security lights, and lanterns, as well as powerful voltage regulators and auto gate openers. We guarantee our products with reliable after-sales service at our maintenance centers. We have offices all over the Niger Delta, including Lagos and Abuja. For contacts, call Kinsley on 0806 388 7516 or Nick on 090 87 000 335. Exalted Eagles Nigeria Limited, your source for alternative power.
It will no longer be business as usual for oil companies violating local and international laws in their operations in Bayelsa State. This was the position of the chairman of the International Commission of Inquiry set up to investigate activities of the oil companies, Dr. John Sentamu, during a recent inspection tour of some polluted sites in Bayelsa State.
In carrying out the mandate entrusted on them, members of the Bayelsa State Commission of Inquiry on Environmental Degradation recently embarked on a tour of polluted sites and were shocked by the extent of pollution in the affected communities. Part of the Commission's terms of reference is to get evidence from the communities as guideline for its investigation. At Egbediri in Yanagua local government area, Chairman of the Community Development Committee, Gospel Awurikumo, told members of the Commission that life has become unbearable for residents since a spill caused by equipment failure occurred in the area in October last year. He said the manifold operated by the Nigerian Ajib Oil Company spilled crude oil for 11 days before it was identified by the oil company.
Environment, and they came for inspection and confirmed that is equipment failure. The equipment failure. I said, okay. We say, okay, since it's equipment failure, then is it not a place to come and do a proper cleanup? We beg them, continue to beg Ajib for a proper cleanup, and nothing good has been done. Even right now, nothing has been done.
It was the same picture at Ikirama in Yanagua local government area, where vast portions of farmlands had been degraded by a massive spill that occurred in June last year.
Where we're standing right now is the right-of-way, SPDC road, the right-of-way, which delivers oil from the Kodia manifold down to Ruwekwe and from there to Bonny Island. So, the spill also encroached into third-party environments. As you can see, there are so many hectares of land that this spill impacted on, farmlands, plantations, and all that. So it's not just within the chair right-of-way, it has gone into third-party lands all around. These oil companies are so trickish in their activities. They said it's a third-party interference spill, so for that reason, there is no compensation for community.
At Azuzwama in southern Niger local government area, the commission led by Dr. Sentamu, the Archbishop of York, had a close interaction with the people who lamented that their livelihoods have been eroded by the negative impacts of oil exploration. The Commission assured them of unbiased reports and recommendations, which will be based on the evidence it received from the communities.
Our task is very simple: to look for evidence whether the law of the country is tough enough to deal with the nationals and their oil pollution. I just want to encourage anybody who has a story to tell of the effects of crude oil on your life. You can write it up and the community people gather it and send it to the Commission.
The recent tour of crude oil impacted sites signals the commencement of work by the International Commission of Inquiry on Environmental Degradation in Bayelsa State.
Inside the Niger Delta.
Everything are dying. The whole fish has gone.
From that very good health, we are now seeking.
Oil is not supposed to be on the surface. Oil is supposed to be inside the pipe.
For them it is business, but for us it is our livelihood, our lives, our children, and our future.
As part of efforts to increase local participation in the oil and gas industry, the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board recently organized a two-day oil and gas opportunity fair in Yenagoa, the Bayelsa state capital. The conference, attended by top local and international players in the oil and gas industry, was organized to explore available and emerging investment opportunities in the most critical sector of the Nigerian economy. The just concluded Nigeria Oil and Gas Opportunity Fair, NOGOF 2019, was a roll call of major players and regulators of the oil and gas industry seeking to maximize investment opportunities for Nigerians. In their presentations, the international oil companies showcased how much local content had been made part of their operations, even as they promised to raise the bar.
On the Gina project, we achieved 77% local content. So we expect to be able to match or even surpass it in this particular one.
So this is the real big one. And after the Gina, this is the next big thing in deep water. And we're all very pleased to see things actually opening up in deep water. So big opportunities there in terms of feed, design, drilling, procurement, fabrication, civil works, marine vessels, all the shebang is there.
While some participants at the conference underscored the urgent need to transform the oil and gas industry for rapid economic growth, others observed that a lot needs to be done to achieve the objectives of the federal government's local content policy in the oil and gas industry.
When we took census about 7-8 years ago, it was below 5%. Today I can confidently tell you on the average we are 30%. In terms of local content attainment. And we are not just leaving it at that. We have recently developed our 10-year strategic plan as to say where do we want to be in the next 9 years.
Nigeria's Minister of State for Petroleum, Dr. Ibe Kachikwu, who made the lead presentation, wondered why, after 6 decades of oil and gas production, Nigerian companies were finding it difficult to take over operations of the oil and gas industry from the international oil and gas companies in Nigeria. Armed with what he described as 7 whys, Dr. Kachikwu presented the factors hampering Nigeria and Nigerians from making progress in the oil and gas sector. He challenged indigenous companies to rise to the occasion and take over from the IOCs.
We are too comfortable in our present, and we are too scared of embracing the future and the challenges. And today I call on you to suddenly stop celebrating mediocrity and let us begin for the first time in our life to challenge ourselves on what we need to do.
For Inside the Niger Delta crew, it was the second time this year of running into Nigeria's Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Dr. Ibe Kachikwu. The first meeting with the minister was in January this year in the island of Bonny in Rivers State, where we asked him the federal government's position on the controversy surrounding OML 25. OML 25 in Belema community of Akukutori local government area of Rivers State was in August 2017 shut in by Shell Petroleum Development Company SPDC after women from its host communities occupied the platform seeking to have Belema Oil Producing, a wholly Nigerian company owned by a son of the soil, take over its operations at the expiration of Shell's lease on it. In his response, Dr. Kachikwu feigned ignorance of the situation with OML 25.
I don't know the details of OML 25. I need to find out where OML 25 is. I need to find out what led to the shutdown. But I will note it, and when I get back to the office, let me find out from NNPC what's wrong with it.
Curiously, when we asked Dr. Ibe Kachikwu the same question again, he claimed to have no knowledge of the conflict surrounding the operation of OML 25, which has been lying fallow in the last 20 months of occupation by host communities, angling for its takeover by an indigenous investor.
I don't have the details, so I couldn't provide you with specifics. I need to study the file on OML 25. It really hasn't come directly to my attention as being a problem issue. So I'll look into OML 25 and see what the specific issue is. If it's been shut down for that long, that is sad.
What is immediately not clear is why Dr. Ibe Kachikwu continues to feign ignorance about a matter he clearly knows about. While the continued shut-in of OML 25 is said to have cost the country billions of naira, the federal government's eventual response to the demand of the host communities will be a litmus test for its willingness to walk the talk in promoting local content in the Nigerian oil and gas industry.
Inside the Niger Delta.
And with that report, we draw the curtain on the program. Inside the Niger Delta, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region, we'll be back same time next week on this station. On behalf of the production crew, I'm yours sincerely, Mahmoud Aku, appreciating you for staying tuned, and bye for now.